What is a charter school?
Charter school is a public school. It is funded by the state and the federal government, but it is autonomous from a traditional public school district. That is, parents, teachers, communities can start charter schools, and it's basically a charter, as the term implies, is a contract. It is a contract between the entity or the group of people starting the charter school, the state in which they're chartered. And that contract delineates the agreement, basically, how the curriculum will be delivered, what the curriculum will be, how it will meet the standards set by the state, and more importantly, how it will be different from what's offered in the traditional public school system.
What is the purpose of a charter school?
The specific purpose of a charter school is to increase student achievement, particularly for students that would be considered at risk. So students who were low income, students who have traditionally not been represented in colleges or universities, students who are first generation immigrants, for example, into the United States, or students who are English language learners, students who speak a different language at home. That is the primary purpose for starting charter schools. Secondly would be to provide parental choice, providing parents a choice in the type of school that they want for their children. And the last purpose of a charter school is to provide teachers a choice in where they want to work, for example, as well as what type of innovative program they may want to be a part of. So all charter schools are not the same, and it provides parents that choice to pick for their child, but it provides a teacher a choice as to where they want to work.
Why would I want to send my child to a charter school?
I believe that parents, teachers, students, founders of schools, communities are passionate about charter schools, really because it's theirs. It's something that they create. It's something they're part of, something that they own. A parent who sends their kid to a charter school, by and large, will never send their kid to another type of school. A teacher who works at a charter school, by and large, will not work in anywhere else but a charter school. Again, it has to do with ownership. It has to do with this belief that this belongs to them, that a school belongs to them, that they are directly responsible for whether the school does well or not. I think as Americans, we like ownership. We like the belief that we can control our destinies, that we can control what is happening in our classrooms and in our lives, basically. I think that's why people are so passionate about these schools. They belong to the communities that they serve.
How are charter schools funded?
So charter schools are funded by the state and federal governments. Just like a traditional public school, charter schools receive funding from their state as well as their local property taxes. And they also receive federal monies for things like what's called Title I, which is basically funds for targeted students like those that are low income or English language learners, for example. So basically there's three pots of money for charter schools, the same three pots of money that are afforded to traditional public schools.
Do charter schools charge tuition?
Charter schools are public schools, so therefore as a public school it cannot charge tuition. That is a big misconception amongst people that do not know charter schools. They believe charter schools are private schools and therefore those that attend pay tuition. But no, in fact, a charter school is completely free.
How are charter schools formed?
So charter schools are formed by anyone, really. Teachers, a group of parents, collaboration between teachers and parents, or in some cases by nonprofits or community-based organizations who really have an idea to do something different for communities. They basically are asked to write a charter or a contract that has very delineated items, such as what the curriculum will be, where the school will be housed, who it will attempt to serve, what the measurable pupil outcomes will be. So that is, what are the students going to achieve once they go through this program, and the health and welfare of the employees. Other items like that are contained in this contract or in this charter. Those are then presented to a body, a governing body, in some cases a school district, in other cases a university, in other cases the mayor's office, for example, that oversee and approve charters. And this governing body determines whether or not the charter will be approved. Once the charter is approved, that group, that individual, that community-based organization goes off and opens doors, basically, and starts to enroll students.
Who can form a charter school?
Charter schools may be formed by individuals, by a collaborative of teachers, by parents, by community-based organizations, or a mix of all of them. Basically, anybody can apply for a charter school as long as they've got a good idea, as long as they've got a reasonable instructional program and design, and equally as important, as long as they can prove through this chartering process that they can get a school up and running. The legislation that started charter schools was really about letting what would be called letting 1,000 flowers bloom and seeing how many of those flowers stayed and continued. It was really an experiment to try to do innovative types of schools. So really anybody could apply for a charter school.
Why is the charter movement growing?
I believe the charter movement is growing because the traditional public schools continue to fail our kids in many ways, with graduation rates of 50% in some cases, where students who enter ninth grade, 50% of those are not going to graduate high school. There seems to be a thirst in this country for better forms of education. And so I believe that as a result of that, many charter schools have started to try to address that gap, what we call the achievement gap, really. So in 2007, for example, there are over 3,000 charter schools operating in the United States. And I believe personally that in the next 5 years, that number will double as traditional public schools continue to fail our most needy kids, our kids from low incomes, our kids from minority backgrounds, our kids who are first generation in this country. Personally, I believe that families are getting more savvy about what they want for their children, and as a result, they don't want what exists in traditional public schools.
Do districts or states limit the number of charters?
In some states, there's what's called a cap on charter schools. For example, in the state of California, there is a cap to the number of charter schools that can be opened each year. That number happens to be 100. In other states, for example, like New York, there's a cap overall. Only X number of charter schools can be opened overall. Some school districts who approve charter schools have also decided that they will cap the number that that district will approve. So it all depends on state by state, district by district, region by region in some cases. So yes, there is a cap in the number of charter schools that can be opened.
Why are some districts and state governments turning to charters?
There is a sense of frustration in the United States about the achievement level of all kids. State legislatures, school districts are having lots of trouble meeting the needs of all students. And there seems to be a sense of urgency right now with respect to what are we doing about the education of our kids. Everybody's worried about the future. And I believe that the charter schools have been a good instrument for all types of politicians and bureaucrats to rally around and to say this could be a way in which we are going to achieve what we need to in order to increase achievement for all students. In some places, large urban districts, for example, charter schools are being used as a way to open new schools without costly facilities development. New York, for example, is using charter schools as a way to meet the needs of their programming for the amounts of students that are being infused into that school system. In Los Angeles, for example, there's also lots of charter schools are cropping around in areas where there is high need for seats, meaning that the school district there cannot open up buildings fast enough to be able to meet the needs of those communities. And in some cases, those students who live in those neighborhoods have to be bussed out to faraway areas for their students to go to school. And charter schools are being seen as a way to start up new schools very quickly so students don't have to be bussed out of their neighborhoods and still attend a public school.